also occurred to me, I should probably mention from earlier, when I said I classically learned clarinet, I did also teach myself piano, which is what I play in bands. Just to clear that up. Hi, welcome to another Music Monday. Today we're going to be looking at writing for the orchestra and also a little bit about who am I and why should you listen. If you're new here, welcome. If you're an old friend, also welcome. And remember, like and subscribe is always appreciated. Let's get on with today's episode. So we're going to go through a quick talk about who I am and maybe why you should listen. We'll have a quick discussion about writing for the orchestra, and then I'm going to give you a demo about how to write for the orchestra in Logic. So, who am I? And more to the point, why should you listen to the things that I'm saying? Well, to give you a bit of background, I've been playing music my whole life. I classically learnt clarinet and played in an orchestra. I've played in bands ever since I was 17 and going out gigging and playing live. I still do it now. I love it. I was first inspired by a drummer in an orchestra pit when I was about 8 or 9, reading music in Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, a musical production. And I just thought, wow, somebody has written music for a drummer to play. And then all these musicians have come together and they're making this awesome sound. So I've always had an interest in producing music, making music, composing music all through my life. I've been writing production music for about 7 years now, and I've had some success with placements. Possibly the most notable names are Housewives of Atlanta, where I've had some electronic music used. BBC Country File has used some of my orchestral tracks, and Police Interceptors. I was really happy when I found out they'd used it in that. In this business, don't forget to be surprised. Expect the unexpected. Literally, because one of the first placements that I got on TV was in the US on a program called Unexpected, and I was so excited to find out what was this program and where's my music being used. So I tracked down the show and watched it, and yes, my music was used in it. It was about unexpected teenage pregnancies. So your music doesn't necessarily end up exactly where you think, but you do get paid every time it's played. So it's great fun doing production music, and I would encourage anybody to have a go at it. And the last point here is that these Music Mondays are for you. I know this stuff, but I want to share it with you, and specifically the topics I have chosen to cover first are the things that I wish I had started learning first. So joining a PRO, I know that sounds or might sound obvious. I know it's not obvious because I've heard stories of people who get a deal, a library says yes, and they haven't joined a PRO. So they can't actually get their music. Well, they certainly can't get paid for their music. And if you have ideas, questions, what should you be doing? Learning how to write for the orchestra, that's why I'm covering that today, is a really important point. It doesn't matter what style of music you're doing. At some point, you may find that you need to write some orchestral backing for it. So if you have ideas, please leave them in the comments. I do read them. Okay, let's talk about the orchestra. Okay, so the first thing to say about writing for the orchestra is don't be scared. Yes, if you look at an orchestra, you will see an awful lot of musicians there. Do you have to write every single note for every single person? Well, if they're going to perform it, you're probably going to get an orchestrator to do that for you. What you need to do in production music world is have an overall idea of what you want it to sound like. And the best way to do that is to break it down into sections. So keep it simple. Imagine the orchestra as just 4 basic sections. You've got your stringed instruments, your woodwinds, your brass, and your percussion. Obviously, those break down into smaller groups, but once you understand they all do a similar thing, it makes it so much easier. And the best way to get to grips with it is to practice. So play around. Get your DAW out. Load up some strings, woodwind, brass and percussion. And a good way to think about it is on the left there, you've got the different groups of instruments within the orchestra. And on the right, you've got what you might typically arrange in any sort of song. So you've got some sort of harmony, some sort of melody, there's some sort of bass going on, and there's a rhythm section to it. So they sometimes match up like this. So the percussion section will often drive the rhythm, but that's not to say string ostinatos. They can drive a rhythm of an orchestral piece. And you can mix and match these. When you start getting used to the different parts of the orchestra, so the strings, say the first and second violins, maybe they could take the melody, but the cello and the bass, maybe you leave them doing a rhythmic underscore. And then you split the woodwinds to do a similar split, but maybe the opposite way round, depending on which instruments you choose. The final thing, before we have a look at a demonstration, is to just say, try and actively listen to some orchestral music. That's the best way you can learn. And when I say actively listen, I mean find a piece of orchestral music, and when you are listening to it, pick out in your head, oh, what are the strings doing? Are they doing harmony, melody, bass, or rhythm? What are the woodwinds doing? Brass, and so on. And maybe listen to the same piece a few times over. And if making notes is one of the ways that you remember, then definitely do that. And the more you listen, and specifically actively listening, so you are analysing as you are listening, the easier this will get. Okay, let's have a look at a demo in the DAW. Okay, welcome to Logic. I'm going to need some headphones for this bit so I can hear what's going on. It also occurred to me, I should probably mention from earlier, when I said I classically learned clarinet, I did also teach myself piano, which is what I play in bands. Just to clear that up. Right, so I've got a simple piece of music here, and I've done let's listen to the orchestral arrangement first so you can hear the finished result. Okay, so a nice simple piece. This is the sort of thing you want to be practicing and building up, because it will get your ears used to the different sounds of the orchestra and how they work together. The way I like to create orchestral arrangements generally starts with a piano. because that is my main composing instrument. So I've literally done a really obvious, if you spotted it, one of those classic C, A minor, F, G progressions. And back to C. Now, the reason I often do this is because it can very quickly sort out your entire string section, because I'm playing triads over octave bass notes. And when we look at the string section, I expand this, we have violins 1, 2, viola, cello and bass, 5. So they conveniently line up with the 5 notes that I am playing in the piano. So I just have then split them out individually, literally from top to bottom, which sound like this. Some of the chords, the note will continue. So for example, in violins 2 here, we've got this C and it actually holds. So don't keep repeating the same note if it's going to be held. Let's just hold it for the amount of time that it's there. The same happens with the cello for the first couple of chords as well. Okay, so there's your string sound. Then you'd move on to your brass section. So here I've just used horns, tenor trombone and a tuba. But what I've done is, we were talking about rhythmic parts of a piece. And if you have too many, sustained notes on top of each other, they can build up. So do think about changing things up. So here you'll hear the tuba has a bit more rhythmic lilt to it. I mean, pretty simple, but you get the idea. Then we've got the woodwinds, so I use flutes, clarinets and oboes. And again, I gave the oboes little flourishes and the clarinets and flutes a sort of melody sort of line. Go. And for the percussion, I just used snare drums and a few cymbals. So you get the idea. All I've done, I came up with an initial idea on the piano. Then I broke it down into strings which were going to take the main chords. So that's almost like a bass sort of section. The brass sort of followed along, but I added some rhythmic elements into it as well. The woodwind sort of took the melody and a bit of flourishes or harmonies, and the percussion was very definitely doing the rhythm. Just doing simple arrangements like this will help train your ear. So really worth having a go yourself, just with simple chords like that. C, A minor, F, G, and see if you can make a coherent sound. It is one of the greatest things I wish I had learnt earlier, was how to mix the different parts of an orchestra together. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, thumbs up and subscribe is brilliant. But if you want to join me over on Patreon for those extra benefits, along with feedback on your cues, your composition, it would be great to have you there. Have a good day.